So a few weeks ago, I quit my job, and not because I got fired or because I hated everyone there, and not because I had some six-figure business waiting for me on the other side. I quit because I realized I spent most of my life following a plan that was supposed to make me successful. Uh, I wasn't sure that I actually wanted the plan that life was building for me, which is a pretty terrifying thing to realize when the plan is actually working. Growing up, I basically thought adulthood came with some sort of quest marker or objective list. You do well in school, you go to college, you find a good job after you graduate, and you make money and get the house and the dream, and you lived happily ever after. And I don't say that like that was some evil lie that adults told me. My parents followed that path. They worked hard, they built their own careers, and raised a family and created a great life for themselves. So I personally watched it work, and of course, I was going to believe them. I mean, I'm 18 years old, and at the time, my parents would tell me, do this or do that, and you'll be okay. You'll end up like us. And, the alternative is some guy on the internet that's sitting in the front seat of his Lamborghini talking about entrepreneurship and building a business. So, yeah, I chose college. I wanted the safe option. I didn't want to end up being broke. I didn't want to gamble my future hoping I'd somehow be the exception. I figured if I followed the script and worked hard, kept moving forward, and eventually everything would just fall into place. So that's what I did. I graduated high school in 2015. I went to college, and by my final year, I was ready to do what I thought came next. And then 2020 happened. I know, fantastic. But like everyone else, suddenly I was back home, but now I was finishing my degree through a computer screen while the job market I spent years preparing for basically froze in front of me. But, I didn't let that deter me. Once things started opening back up, I went back to applying. I kept running into the same problem, though, which a lot of the jobs I thought I was qualified for wanted experience that I didn't have yet. And the jobs that connected to my degree just were not materializing the way I wanted them to. So eventually, I landed a job as a bellman at a brand new luxury hotel. Was it something that I thought I was going to end up doing? No, absolutely not. But I had an opportunity and I was going to make the most of it. And most importantly, I still believed in the script that I was taught. You have to start somewhere, work hard, learn everything you can, and make yourself useful. So within about 6 months, I learned everything I could about hospitality and the business. I ended up going around the city and learning new things for guests to experience. And it actually worked out a lot. And for a while, the plan was coming together. But that's kind of where things get complicated because somewhere along the way, I started realizing that almost every major decision of my life was based on what somebody else thought I should do. And I don't mean this in some sort of dramatic, everybody controlled my life and woe is me kind of way. No, nobody forced me. If anything, most of the things that I was told and most of the people around me were trying to help, but I spend so much of my time trying to be a good son, the good student, the dependable employee that the person everybody could count on, but that I never really stopped and asked myself a pretty basic question. What do I actually want? I hadn't chased some dream I had since I was a kid. I hadn't chosen a degree that I was even really passionate about. A lot of the decisions I made came down to some sort of version of, well, this seems responsible, or that would make so and so proud, or this sounds like what I'm supposed to do next. But none of those are really bad reasons in and of themselves. I still think there's something admirable about being dependable, about helping others and being something that someone else can count on. The problem was that I'd somehow made being useful to everybody else the entire point of my own life. And I didn't really understand that until my career started to move forward. Eventually I started moving up. I was starting to actually make, decent money, nothing crazy, but decent for my age. I had more responsibilities. People started to trust me. I was nowhere near the top of the ladder, but I was making my way up there. And the truth of the matter is that I ended up being so miserable. I was constantly stressed. I wasn't sleeping well. My anxiety was through the roof. And I could feel the job coming with me every time I left the building. I would get home and I'd still be thinking about work. I'd be off and still thinking about work. Even when I was trying to relax and game, I could still feel work creeping in the back of my head, or I'd get messages from my team members about problems that were happening. And eventually, I had this moment where I thought, what am I doing this for? Why am I going through all of this? And it's not a question of why do I have to work? Because we all have to work. We have to do something to make money. It's the world we live in. But if I'm going to spend a huge portion of my life working, why not do something that I enjoy or that I feel passionate about or something that I truly care about? Do I really want to spend the next 10 or 20 years climbing the ladder in a career that I didn't enjoy? And the first time I really asked myself that question, I was scared of the answer because walking away from the safe path sounds great when somebody tells you that story 10 years later or when they actually already succeeded, when it's convenient for them, when the business is already successful, when they have money coming in that they don't have to worry about sleeping at night, and they can look at you and say, see, hey, it's all worth it. It worked out for me. But I'm not telling you that story. What I'm telling you is I still have no idea how my story ends. Maybe this all works out, and maybe 5 years from now I can look back and think, hey, this was the best decision I ever made. And maybe I completely screwed this up. And I genuinely don't know. But the most important thing is, and the thing that I hope everyone takes away from this is, I'm taking a chance on myself. And you may ask, what are you taking a chance on? Well, I'm taking a chance on this YouTube thing because I finally reached a point where failing at something I cared about sounded so much better than succeeding at something that I didn't, which is crazy to even think about. And the funny thing is, this isn't actually the first time I've tried doing something like this, pursuing content creation. If you scroll far enough on this channel, you'll find some of my old videos that I uploaded years ago. And they're rough. They're really rough. I didn't understand anything about editing. I didn't know anything about thumbnails, nothing about titles, none of it. I was basically just a kid recording video games because I thought making YouTube videos sounded fun. And eventually I stopped. Life moved on. I went to college, I got the job, started climbing the ladder, and those videos just sat here on my channel. Honestly, looking back at them, they're a little embarrassing, but they have a little bit of charm to them. But I love that they're still here because they remind me that this part of me existed before I even had a career to even pursue, before I was stressed out, before I was thinking about promotions and what I was going to do the rest of my life. At the end of the day, I just enjoyed playing video games. I enjoyed making things. I enjoyed putting them out there to test myself and create some sort of community with others. And honestly, I had no idea what I was doing, but the point is that I tried. And somewhere along that path, I stopped trying. I convinced myself that this YouTube thing wasn't realistic. So I thought that I needed to grow up and choose the safe option and build my career. But I don't look at those years when I was spent trying to build a career as time wasted. Not even close. I learned how to work with people. I learned how to lead. I had learned how to deal with pressure and have difficult conversations. I learned what I'm good at and I learned what I'm bad at. But most importantly, I learned what kind of life I don't want to live. The difference is that this time, I'm not just some teenager uploading random gameplay and hoping somebody watches it. I understand that if I want this to work, I'm going to have to work. I'm going to have to put effort in, something that people will appreciate. Appreciate the effort of a human being actually pursuing their dreams and wanting to make something that people can relate to. I know that I'm gonna have to learn how to write better, how to edit, how to tell better stories and make better videos, and understand why somebody clicked on my video and understand why they left. And I know I'm gonna fail and fail and fail and fail and fail. And honestly, there's gonna be days where I'm gonna seriously consider why I chose pursuing this dream of mine. But for once, that's work that I'm choosing to do. And honestly, that's what I want this channel and hopefully this community to be about. Gaming is obviously going to be a huge part of this channel. It's going to be something that's going to bring people together and open those new doors for people. And honestly, I've loved games most of my life. That's something I'm passionate about. But this is not going to be a channel where I'm going to be covering drama news and the latest patch update. I want us to be able to talk about other things too, about life, work, failure, relationships, growing up, trying to figure out what the hell you're supposed to do with your life. The sort of stuff that you and your friends talk about when you're on those long grinding sessions or it's super late at night and you're finishing up your gaming sessions. But something I want to make very, very clear about this video is I'm not telling you to quit your job. Please don't watch this and walk into work tomorrow, give your boss the finger and tell them that, a guy on YouTube told me to do this. That's not what I'm saying at all. All right. That's not what I'm saying. Your situation is probably completely different from what I'm going through. Maybe you love what you do. And you know what? The traditional path is okay for people. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not telling you that I have things figured out. Trust me, I really don't. But I'm figuring out while I'm talking to you, while I'm writing this script, and while I'm talking into this microphone. But there's something that I think is worth asking yourself every once in a while. And that is, if everything does go to plan, if you get to that end of the road, do you actually want what's at the end? Do you want the life that is there for you? Because for a long time, I never asked myself that question. I just saw the objective and assumed wherever that was leading me to was where I was supposed to go. And eventually I realized moving up doesn't necessarily mean you're moving in the right direction. So, yeah, I quit my job. I'm giving this whole thing another shot. I don't know if any of this is going to work out. I don't know how many people are going to even watch this. But my old videos are still here. And so am I. And that's something that I've kind of been thinking about. We treat so many things like they're permanent. We choose this degree, so this is the career I have to pursue. We spent years building something, so I can't just walk away from it. You gave up on something, so you missed out on your chance. And I don't believe that anymore. Sometimes you take the safe path, and sometimes you make the wrong decision. And life gets in the way. Sometimes you stop doing something you loved, and you don't come back for it for years. And that doesn't mean it's over. Maybe you're watching this feeling like you missed out on your chance on something, and maybe there's something that you were passionate about that you convinced wasn't worth it or wasn't realistic. Maybe you're further down your career than I ever was, and you start wondering to yourself, is this something that I really are passionate about, that I really care about? And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm still figuring out what I should do. All that I'm telling you is what happened to me and what I think now. I spent a long time believing that changing directions meant that you failed. It meant that you didn't live up what you were supposed to. But now I think that staying on the wrong path just because you've walked a long way might be a bigger mistake. So I'm trying something different. I'm pursuing something that I'm passionate about, something that I truly care about, and something that I want to build a community around. Things are uncertain, but I know I'm not going to quit just because the mountain seems really high. I hope you all will join me on this journey and we can create a community together. And one thing that I hope you take away from this is it's never over. God bless.
Waiting on you. The moment of recognition. Brother! For the glory of Ultramar! Transformation. I feel you probing our minds. Steal your thoughts.